Hello, we come to the end of another week. Welcome to Devotions. I'm Pastor David Schoob at Trinity Lutheran Church in West Bend. Our scripture reading to start these devotions comes from the 3rd chapter of the book of Exodus. It's the story of Moses coming upon the burning bush. And in chapter 5, or verse 5, it says, "Then God said, 'Come no closer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground.'" We walk through life and we don't realize that we are on holy ground. God's loving presence makes every moment, every space, in some ways, holy ground. And it's, I think, important that we take time every now and then to stop and recognize the holiness that surrounds us. Robert Fulghum did this once. He writes about this in one of his books. He tells about going to Pocatello, Idaho. She was there working on a job, and Robert went along with her just to be with her. And during the days, he would spend his time in a university library because it was the only place around that had air conditioning. And so he would sit there and gather all kinds of books and look through them and get all kinds of wonderful ideas and insights from all of that. But one Friday afternoon, he found a special touch of holiness. Listen to his description. "One Friday evening in this reflective mood, I stopped off at the Albertsons grocery store on my way home. Watermelon on my mind, big watermelon. Take it home and eat the whole thing out in the yard. There was something else I was supposed to get, but I couldn't recall, so I started walking up and down the aisles of the grocery store in much the same spirit as I had walked through the library shelves. And the same thing happened. Bad news and good news about groceries. All this food, more than I could ever eat or taste, involving thousands of people from all over the world to get it here on the shelves. Infinite in every direction, because thousands of other people would come and get it and take it home and eat it at thousands of dinner tables, and it would fuel their lives to do millions of things, and I could only have just the barest comprehension of this immense complexity. I picked up the first object in front of me, a can of tuna fish, thought about its contents, the can itself and the label and all the incredible learning and working and the machinery and the processes and the fishing boats and the fishermen and factory ships and trains and trucks that brought it here from so far away. Then there's the line of thought away from here in the direction yet to come. Where would it all go? Where would it end up? The can, the label, the fish, and the person who ate the fish, and on and on and on. This is not how I usually spend my time in a grocery store. For a moment, the rational monitor in my mind was warning, "Uh-oh, you're losing your marbles." Walking up the aisle, my eye was caught by the bold black and white headlines on an advertising placard which said, "Well, you're not the only one." And in smaller print, it had something to say about the quest for a decent canned spaghetti sauce. The headline fit into my existential state. Yes, I thought to myself, I'm not the only one. Not the only one who ever got a flash of the big picture. Not the only one who understands how utterly amazing it all is. There's lots of testimony in those books up there in the library. This is exactly what all those books are about. Holding on to my sanity and the watermelon and the can of tuna fish with equal care, I stopped at the checkout counter and paid with a $20 bill. I noticed a handwritten note on the little cup where coins appear at the end of a transaction. The note said, "Please accept your change. Take it with you." Here was yet another unexpected message. Yes, I thought to myself, I accept my change, and the change is yet to come, and I will take my change with me wherever I go. Turning to leave, I was confronted with still another sign. The automatic doors were broken. The sign said, "Please note, the only way out is in." As always, it's how one perceives the door that determines the coming and the going. There are two journeys one must make to have balance: out there and in here. One depends on the other. Every exit is an entrance. The door swings both ways. The only way out is always in. To move on in the world as it is, one must turn to resources within. Well, in the long, long ago, such a life experience would be described as having a vision. A common event back then. Those old guys in the Bible would have no trouble with my telling them about this, and we accept such moments as happening to those old guys. But to me, now, this is the 20th century. We make fun of such moments. What have you been smoking? I know that these moments of deep connection with the way things are, these brief flashes of understanding, are not only contemporary but common. It's just hard to talk about them, like our night dreams and daydreams. When asked in earnest, most people will tell a similar story. We have not changed that much in the last 2,000 years. These private moments of knowing ultimately matter most wherever they happen. That place becomes holy ground. I'm not crazy or stoned or strange. Tested with my own cynical skepticism and most rational mind, I know that experience one summer's eve in a grocery store in Pocatello was a prominent landmark in my journey onward. A time when I stood at the summit of a pass in my own mountains and could see far behind me and far ahead. The world started out before me and in me, infinite in every direction. Don't worry if this happens to you. Worry if it doesn't. So for a moment again, using a meditation from Joyce Rupp's Prayers of Boundless Compassion with permission from her and her publisher, I invite you to contemplate on holy ground. If you can, find yourself a little pebble, a rock to hold in your hand to remind you a little bit of the earth. If you need time, go ahead, go get it. We'll be here when you get back. So take a look at this seemingly insignificant pebble that you're holding in your palm. You could easily pass by this little thing or not notice stepping on it. Look closely at the color, the shape, the size, the texture. Imagine the amazing journey this small bit of creation has taken. You're holding in your hand a piece of stardust from billions of years ago. The elements of this small pebble have come from somewhere in the universe. A star composed of gases exploded and was strewn into space. It eventually formed hot lava that became the planet we call Earth. Ever so slowly, this mixture became solid, creating an outer crust on the planet. The crust developed into a solid layer of rocks composed of minerals. What you hold in your hand is some of the earliest parts of our planet. Look closely at your pebble. Where was this pebble's first home? How many homes did it have? Was it part of an upheaval of minerals that shaped into a mountain? Did it experience being within a volcanic eruption? Was it at the bottom of a lake in the ocean, in the seam of a glacier? Did a river carry it along for thousands of miles? Has it been washed out from a dark cave? Think about the long history of this seemingly insignificant thing. This pebble has known a journey of dissolving, joining, shaping, becoming part of a solid, large form, and then a smaller and smaller one. There's known a lot of history in its expansive life. If your pebble could speak, it would have a lot to say to you. Listen for a moment to what it might speak to you if it could. What you hold in your hand may seem dead, but it has its own life. A small electromagnetic field of energy. You can't detect this, but scientists know it's there. Pause to look at what you hold, an invisible, unfelt energy that carries an ancient history filled with stories. Lift it to your cheek. Let its sacredness touch you. Welcome your union with the long, evolving history it has known. This little pebble is allowing you to touch a star. Continue to hold it in your palm. Give thanks to the Creator for its existence and message, for how it tells you of the sacredness of even tiny, seemingly inert things. Take the pebble with you. Put it in your home or office where you can behold it when your sense of wonder and gratitude weakens. Let it remind you of the sacredness of everything that exists, including you. You are on holy ground. May you find joy in that awareness. Have a wonderful weekend.